capital in Port-au-Prince. He didn't confirm why he was here, but it does seem clear that he would be here to pick that up. So certainly there is a great deal of confusion that remains, but it does seem there's a lot more momentum in the possible return of former President Aristide than there has been for quite some time.
What effect might Aristide's return then have as we go into the second round of elections with very low turnout, of course, in the first?
Well, it's extremely unpredictable. I mean, it really depends who you speak to, but certainly Aristide retains widespread political support from, I mean, the time that we've spent in this country since last January. You know, almost every day we hear the calls from the poorer sectors of the population when we go and visit camps, for example, or the poorer neighborhoods of the capital here. Aristide's name is one you hear again and again. He certainly has an enduring appeal here. So his return, I mean, it's unpredictable in terms of what could happen politically, but certainly we would anticipate large numbers of supporters out on the streets, and certainly the view of many international officials that we're speaking to here is that it could be potentially destabilizing to this very fragile political process that's going forward at this point.
Sebastian, thank you very much. That's it from Washington for the moment, but let's return to Doha.
Shihab, many thanks indeed. We're going to take you now straight to the United Nations headquarters in New York. Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon is speaking about Egypt. Let's listen in for a moment.
African Union Summit meeting in Addis Ababa. My talks focused on the situations in Côte d'Ivoire, Sudan, and Somalia. On Côte d'Ivoire, as you are already aware, the African Union has established a high-level panel composed of 5 presidents.
Well, having jumped into that, we're going to dip out again straight away because it's clear that the Secretary-General there is not speaking about Egypt at the moment. We'll continue to keep our ear across what he's saying and return to him when he begins to talk about the situation in Egypt. In the meantime, let's move on. Al Jazeera has obtained exclusive footage of the funeral of an Afghan detainee who died in U.S. custody at Guantanamo Bay. Awal Gul was held for nearly 9 years over alleged links to the Taliban and Al-Qaeda. According to the U.S. military, his death last week was caused by, quote, apparent natural causes. Zaina Hoda reports now from Kabul.
It was a funeral for a controversial man who died under controversial circumstances. It was also Awal Gul's homecoming after 9 years at Guantanamo prison, where he died last week. According to the U.S. military, he was a Taliban commander with ties to Osama bin Laden. He was never formally charged, and his lawyer long argued that Gul quit the Taliban movement before the 9/11 attacks.
Awal didn't have any property. He was a jihadi commander who fought against the Soviets. He was not a traitor. He's now a martyr.
In his hometown of Jalalabad in eastern Afghanistan, outrage over what they called his unjust detention and demise. Death to America and long live the Taliban, they chanted. The Guantanamo Detention Center, as well as other U.S.-run prisons, have been a major source of resentment towards the coalition forces in Afghanistan. Resentment that the Taliban exploits. A statement released by the Taliban's Tora Bor describes Awal Gul as a hero, a martyr, and a jihadi commander. They have also vowed to take revenge against what they called the Crusaders. His family is also demanding an investigation. The U.S. military says Gul collapsed and died of apparent natural causes after exercising on a machine. Relatives dispute that claim and insist his death was not due to natural causes. While Washington admits it is working hard to win the hearts and minds of ordinary Afghans, this latest incident does not appear to help America's cause, leaving an ever-watchful Taliban to seize the moment. Zaina Hoda, Al Jazeera, Kabul.
Australia's Prime Minister Julia Gillard has paid an emotional tribute to those killed in last month's floods. She struggled to hold back tears during a condolence motion in Parliament and became visibly upset as she spoke about a 13-year-old boy who lost his life in the flooding.
The courage it takes for a young boy, 13-year-old Jordan Rice, to say to his rescuers, "Take my brother first." And before that brave rescuer could return, Jordan and Mum Donna were taken by the flood. but the legend of Jordan's amazing courage will go on. A hero in the purest sense of the word.
North and South Korea have met for the first time since 4 people were killed in the shelling of a South Korean island last November. The talks are aimed at easing tension on the peninsula and kick-starting the stalled North Korean nuclear negotiations. Harry Fawcett is in Seoul.
What's in a handshake? Reading the finer points of inter-Korean diplomacy is never easy, but this meeting of colonels at the truce village of Panmunjom certainly appeared less frosty than the last one in September. All the more remarkable, given what's happened in the meantime. When North Korean artillery rained down on the island of Yeonpyeong, killing 2 South Korean civilians and 2 Marines last November, there were genuine fears of escalating conflict. North Korea raised the spectre of nuclear war. The South insisted it was ready to fight. Earlier, in March, a much greater loss of life on the South Korean frigate Cheonan, 46 killed in a sinking blamed by the South on a North Korean torpedo. Tuesday's talks were the result of a remarkable change in tone from Pyongyang, since January calling for dialogue. Late last month, Seoul suddenly agreed, dropping its demand for an apology for the Yeonpyeong and Cheonan incidents. Seoul is demanding, though, responsible measures on the issue from the other side. Both are under pressure from their allies in Beijing and Washington to restart stalled 6-party talks on North Korea's nuclear weapons program. The fact that these talks have taken place is in itself significant, a sign of just how quickly things can change on this peninsula. But as 2 unexpected fatal incidents last year showed, they can change again for the worse just as quickly. Harry Fawcett, Al Jazeera, Seoul.
Sport next with Louise, including the pressure mounting on Tiger Woods as the world's top 3 golfers set to tee off in the Desert Showdown.
Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter. Business Latest is brought to you by Catalum, the most efficient and environmentally friendly aluminium smelter.
An American visiting Iran strikes up an unlikely friendship.
Do they understand English?
That transcends preconceptions.
What do you know? Your knowledge of America.
And delves into an Iran rarely seen outside the Republic. Shah Banu, a witness special on Al Jazeera.
It's a case of hello, goodbye for England's cricketers. Here with all the sport is Louise.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Well, the England cricket teams arrived home after winning the Ashes, but they've got just 4 days till they have to leave again for the upcoming World Cup. After retaining the Ashes urn with a 3-1 series win, Andrew Strauss's side's been dealt a major blow, with batsman Owen Morgan ruled out with a broken finger. And after more than 100 days on tour, the likes of Stuart Broad, Graham Swan and Paul Collingwood are all fighting to get back to fitness. Well, England's performance in one-day internationals is also questionable. After winning the Ashes, they then lost to Australia 6-1 in the one-day series.
Obviously, we didn't do as well as we'd like in the one-days. We're not going to hide away from that fact. But the main priority going out to Australia was to retain the Ashes. And I think the fact we did that, but also the style in which we did it, speaks volumes for the players who went out there and performed under real pressure. So, you know, I think we're all exceptionally proud of what we've done. And we're now turning our attention towards the World Cup, which is, again, something we're very motivated by and very excited by as well.
Well, England's tour's also taking its toll on Australia before they attempt to defend their World Cup title. Mike Hussey and Nathan Horrocks have been ruled out through injury. Now, Hussey tore his hamstring in the one-day series against England in Melbourne.